Are you ready to ignite your information security career? Well, then buckle up, put on your tinfoil hat, and get ready for Hackers on Fire with your host, Glenn Roberts.
Hello, everyone. This is Glenn Roberts. I'm thrilled to introduce Ben Wright to Hackers on Fire. Hi, Ben.
Hello.
Ben Wright is a former teacher of mine at SANS. He's been with SANS for over a decade, teaching students on the law of data security and investigations. He's got an educational background at Georgetown University Law Center. Ben, I've given everybody a brief intro into your background, but why don't you tell everyone more? Let's hear about you personally and what you do.
Okay, Glenn. As an attorney, I have been in solo private practice for over 25 years, where my practice has focused on the law of technology. And as the years have passed, that precise work that I do has evolved because technology evolved. So I spent more of my time in the 1990s focusing on electronic commerce, whereas in this century, a little more work has been focused on security, investigations, and records management, although electronic commerce remains one of the things that I do. So I work for a wide variety of clients around the world. Typically, they're enterprises that need some kind of help with technology law and policy and managing risk related to cyber law.
That's quite a bit, Ben. I know you're busy, highly sought after. Well, I want to start out by asking you if you have a motivational quote that we can share with the listeners.
I guess I do have a motivational quote. I've carried this little quote around it in my wallet since about law school or maybe even college. The quote is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he said, "Hitch your wagon to a star. Let us not fag in paltry works that fill our pot and bag alone." So
I love it.
I've long admired that quote to remind me that my professional work is about more than earning a living.
Absolutely. And that's the case for all of us.
Indeed.
Well, so if we look at your specific career, I mean, it is just phenomenal. It's mind-blowing. Every conference I go to, I see you there.
Okay.
And the room is just full of students learning about, security and legal security in particular. And I know you're doing a lot of amazing things, but that wasn't always the case. We all started somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to ask you to look back at your history at a struggle that you were faced with during the initial portions of your career, especially breaking into information security, what would that struggle be and how did you overcome it?
In my career, I see two big times of struggle. One of them involved getting into security, and the other one was prior to that. As I had said earlier, in the 1990s, more of my work focused on electronic commerce. And the struggle was that I was a young lawyer who had been working at a law firm, and I had a vision of doing something with my career that would be unconventional and would lead me to future opportunities that are hard to predict. And so the difficult thing was somehow taking a law degree and getting involved in technology where I had no background in technology. I was an English major in college. And it was challenging. It took a lot of work and a lot of effort in the late 80s and early 90s. But essentially, I found people who would support the writing of books and giving of presentations, especially writing of books on electronic commerce. That was in the 1980s and the 1990s. So that got me going with a law practice and with a career. Then the second big challenge did relate to security, and that is um, my professional life, my practice was pretty successful and intensive, especially in the last half of the 1990s, because the web was hot and lots of people were putting money into all kinds of .coms and new technology. And
Oh
so there
yeah.
were plenty of things to do. Uh, However, when around the year 2001 came, we had the .com bust, and then we had September 11. And those two things together just put a big kibosh on my business. Suddenly, no one wanted to talk about electronic commerce law anymore. People were not putting money into technology, and I had to struggle and find a way to reinvent myself. What I ultimately did, and it was a struggle, is that I found a, the SANS Institute, as well as some other things connected with security and records management and evidence law, which all have fueled my practice since around 2003 or so.
Well, Ben, before we move on, you talked about the struggle getting into security in the first place and just the whole disaster that was the .com bubble bust. What would you like the audience to take away from that? What's a key point that they can extract and really resonate with?
Well, my, my personal experience involved searching around for a a place where I could use my talents and be of value. And that means talking to lots of people and trying to pay attention to what's happening in the marketplace at a particular time. One of the interesting things about September 11 is that it caused a lot of corporations and governments to think hard about security. And September 11 was good for the SANS Institute. So SANS was growing. SANS had a message, and that says, we help you provide security, and everybody's worried about security in the wake of September 11. And so I found the SANS Institute just by hunting around, paying attention to the stuff that comes in the mail. I got a brochure from SANS. I read it, and it said, if you've got an idea for a seminar, let us know. And so I contacted SANS, and I said, you need to have a seminar on the law of information security.
And you got it.
And we started working, and the seminar was a success. And we started out with 1 day of material back in 2003, and then we have expanded upon it over the years so that it's now a 5-day course.
I took the course. I've taken several SANS classes, and I like the labs and getting in there hacking stuff. Like I'm sure a lot of the other students do.
Yes.
So when it came to find out that this legal class is necessary as part of the master's program, I kind of saved it for last.
Mm-hmm.
But I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was the best class, hands down, that I've taken at SANS.
Wow,
And
that's a tremendous endorsement, because I think very, very highly of the other classes and the other instructors there. So thank you.
well, there's a lot of overlap in all the different classes, but your class in particular stands alone as a lot of original material.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just learned so much, and
Wow.
that's why I think it was the best class because of all the original material. And I am so glad that you found SANS back in 2003 or whenever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would say that's your turning point?
It was an important turning point. So, the first turning point was leaving the law firm and setting out on my own, and the second turning point was getting past the .com bust, where e-commerce was a hot topic, and moving into a new hot topic
Hmm.
of security.
What is your proudest moment in your infosec career?
First, I have a hard time with the word proud. That is just personally, that's not the way I think about my work. I don't think about it as pride. I think of my work as more trying to help other people, and that's not about my pride. That's about helping other people. So maybe to change uh,
Ben,
the yes.
are you a lawyer?
I'm sorry. I have to admit, and my family accuses me of this all the time.
It's quite all right.
They can't get a straight answer out of me on anything. And what I was going to say is that uh, there is one particular case that I have been involved in that has been described in a book, and I am happy that I was able to help the client under the particular circumstances. And it's an ongoing matter, even though the guy's already written a book about it. He's going to have to write another book when the whole thing is finally over. So the name of the book, and I guess it's a little bit of a plug here for my client's book. The name of the book is The Devil Inside the Beltway. It's a very complex story. It is the most interesting infosec law story and case that I've ever encountered, whether being involved or not. But it essentially it involves a dispute between a medical laboratory and a infosec company that ended up with some sensitive files that belong to that medical laboratory, and all of the legal fallout and the investigation by the Federal Trade Commission that has come from that. And so that is a moment, and that's a point in my career that I am pleased that I was able to help the client, and the client in his book says that I helped him a lot.
I'm looking forward to reading that book.
All right.
All right. Well, so obviously you're successful, several years of success on all of us. And, what I'm trying to do here is really get at what someone can take away from someone as successful as yourself and put that into what they're doing, into their career plans, and benefit from that. So, are there any habits that you do on a regular basis that if someone were to take on those habits themselves would have some additional ingredients for success?
I I really try to think outside of the box, and I'm constantly asking myself, what is the next thing that's going to happen? And in technology, things change really quickly, and therefore being flexible so that when opportunities arise or when a new technology comes up or a new problem arises, that you've got a way to approach it. And uh, lawyers often have rather specific ideas in their head about what it is a lawyer is supposed to do. And I try to put that aside to a large degree and just ask, what value can I deliver to a client or to the marketplace at any particular time? Not,
Wow.
am I billing hours the way a traditional lawyer bills hours? And am I getting, I don't know, professional credit the way a professional lawyer gets? I really try to put aside and just say, what can I do that's of help to anybody at any place in any way?
I love it. Well, adopting that kind of an attitude, that's really a lot of what IT is, or
Yes.
information security. It's performing a service. And
Yes.
I really love your philosophy. I think that it works well for anyone and for their success.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're giving some advice. What's the best advice that you've ever received?
I had a professor in college who was very inspirational to me. She taught that society provides all these conventions and roles for us. And she said, learn how to of overcome these conventions, or at least how to set them aside as appropriate. And she kind of had in her own interesting way of stating this. This was an English professor, and we're back in undergraduate, but she said that any person should recognize that they can see things from both a male and a female perspective. And she used the word androgyny. And what I took away from it was, I'm a very male person, but the way I took it was to learn how to see things through the eyes of other people. She was saying, if you're a guy, learn how to see things through the eyes of a woman and think about how a woman would respond to a problem. That larger message and piece of advice in my life, as in my career, I guess has enabled me to try to think about legal issues and technology issues and security issues from many perspectives, from the perspective of law, but the perspective of management, from the perspective of the clients or customers of an enterprise, and so on. I don't know. I guess that's a little quick bit of advice I took from Dean Colleen Grissom at Trinity University back when I was in college.
It's amazing advice. I mean, every day we are faced with different types of people with conflicting interests in the workplace, and it's very helpful to see what they are doing or what they did and the way they did it from their viewpoint.
Right.
Especially instead of casting aspersions and getting real judgmental.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Well, something that I've been curious about because I haven't been at SANS for a while is, what are you doing right now? What's motivating you? What's going on with Ben?
Okay. All right. Well, the material at the SANS Institute that I deliver is very dynamic and keeps me really hopping because there is so much going on. I mean, just this year we've had Target, we've had Home Depot, we've had JP Morgan Chase Bank, all announcing breaches. I mean, these are massive breaches.
Oh, yeah.
And we've had Heartbleed, we've had Shell Shock Bash, a vulnerability. And those are just the big highlights. So I do put a great deal of energy trying to keep up with where culture is going in responding to these security problems. And when I say culture, I believe that in order to understand law on these topics of information security, we've got to understand politics, and ultimately to understand politics, we have to understand culture. What is our society thinking and expecting in the wake of these very sophisticated kinds of attacks that we are seeing. So that's one topic that keeps me really ginned up. And every day I spend quite a bit of time just reading the news, just trying to figure out what's going on. Another thing I guess is taking a lot of my time directly is I'm working for a client, an enterprise. It's a multinational financial institution, and they deal with privacy and information security and regulatory issues in many countries. And so trying to explain their position on information security in the different languages, the different cultures, the different countries, the different laws that they face, and doing all this in a practical way is a very rewarding challenge, difficult challenge. So those are a couple examples of things I'm working on.
I imagine it's really challenging when one country says, do it this way, another country says, do it the other way, and it's in conflict. So that can be difficult, I'm sure.
Yes. We do have conflicts, and we'll have a relatively small country that says you've got to do it some very specific way that really doesn't make sense, and they start looking like the tail that's wagging the dog, and the company has to make some difficult challenges when the law in one of the many countries that they do business in says you've got to secure passwords in this very certain way, and that just doesn't necessarily make sense.
So, if you think about the audience that's out there, some of the audience will be looking for ways of getting into infosec. And earlier on, you mentioned a struggle getting into information security. Do you have any additional advice for someone that's getting into information security, or if you were just now getting started in this day and age with everything that's currently going on, how would you approach it?
One thing that I see is that forensic investigations is a growth field. And as the Internet of Things continues to expand, the quantities of data that are collected at any given moment about any given thing are just mushrooming. And therefore, I see growth opportunities for for the careers of those people who are looking for some kind of a professional place where they can add value. If they understand how to run a forensic investigation that collects data out of the cloud or out of mobile devices or off of Nest thermostats and so on, I believe those kinds of people will find a place to earn a living, a place to add value. So I like recommending that people who are looking to advance their career, they look hard at something related to digital forensics.
That's a solid lead for everyone out there. Well, before we go on into the resources and stuff like that, how would someone get a hold of you if they wanted to contact you about something?
The easiest way to contact me is benjaminwright.us. It's all one word, benjaminwright, WRIGHT.us. And so I own that little domain, and from time to time it points to different things, but it'll always get to me. So that's an easy way to find me.
Well, I appreciate your approachability and for getting on the podcast as well. I'm really looking forward to staying in contact with you, and then also getting back to a SANS conference as soon as I can.
Well,
so
I look forward to seeing you when you're there.
What do you have going on in the next few months?
Well, I do teach at SANS in about 8 days. So that is a major thing for me. Every big SANS conference, I really gear up for it and have a lot of preparation. And so that's a big project in front of me. Beyond that, one of the things I guess is on my radar right now is Bitcoin. And I have a hard time evaluating whether Bitcoin or things like that will be a success, but Bitcoin is very interesting to me. Even if Bitcoin itself does not succeed, the concept of a blockchain for recording transactions, as Bitcoin uses, is a very powerful, innovative idea. Thus, I'm blogging about Bitcoin and things like Bitcoin. So that's one of the things that does have my attention. And so I've been doing some blogging already and have some plans to blog more and write and make some videos on that.
That's an interesting subject. I've spoken privately with some people that work at very notable financial institutions, and they have been asked to research these unregulated currencies and ways in which to get involved. And I don't think they can really find their way right now into those markets due to some regulations, but I think they're chomping at the bit to experiment.
And one of my observations is for those big institutions who may think that they can't get into it because of regulations, I think they run a big risk that somebody else somewhere else in the world is going to get involved and find a way to work to avoid regulations or roadblocks. And so you may see, for instance, the Canadians seem to be fairly open-minded on Bitcoin, and therefore you could see big financial institutions out of Canada running circles around maybe American institutions who feel that they don't have that runway to be able to do that.
That's an amazing insight. I couldn't agree with you more. What are some websites or tools, some resources that you would suggest to the audience that they could take a look at and would benefit from career-wise?
Well, for me, I focus, of course, on looking for law and regulation and related to information technology and investigations. The number one place I go to for a good feed of information is the SANS News Bites newsletter. About 3 days a week, SANS sends out an email newsletter. It's free. You can sign up on the SANS.org website. That's an excellent digest and summary of major things that are happening.
I agree.
Information security. The next major place that I go to is a free email newsletter that comes from a law firm named Steptoe and Johnson. That's STEPTOE, Steptoe, and then Johnson. They're a large law firm in Washington, D.C., and they have a newsletter that's called the E-commerce Law News. And it's easy to find on their website. It's easy for you to search for it. But if you're really wanting to keep up with cyber law, those guys are fantastic in keeping up with the leading cases and interesting cases from around the world and developments. I couldn't operate without them. Finally, place where I get a lot of news is on Google Plus. Google Plus is Google's not so well-known social network. For me, I've found that I've been able to cultivate a group of people and entities that I follow on Google Plus such that it becomes a very efficient feed of information for me. And I try to use it as a way of learning about things that I don't know that I don't know. It's not just infosec, not just investigations that I follow there. It's a broader range of technology developments so that I can kind of see things that are coming, things like the Internet of Things, for example. And that's also a place where I've learned a lot about Bitcoin.
What about a book recommendation?
The number one book recommendation that I have for someone thinking about technology and policy, and which includes infosec, but it also includes investigations, includes compliance. The name of the book is The Naked Corporation. It's written by a guy named Don Tapscott, Tapscott, and I am absolutely astounded by this book. It was written in 2003, and it is such a prescient book, meaning it foresees the future. And the essence of the book is, and this is something these guys picked up in 2003. They said that a corporation, as well as a government agency or a nonprofit, needs to recognize that its secrets just can't be maintained as secrets. And you've got to realize everything about you is going to get out because of Snowden and WikiLeaks and
employees,
a whole bunch of other things. And so he says we need to be much more transparent as enterprises in the internet age.
Everyone, you can find the links to these resources, tips, and guidance that Ben's given us during this session. All you have to do is go to hackersonfire.com and search for Ben Wright. Thank you, Ben, for an amazing interview.
Glenn, thanks a lot for reaching out to me.
Hey everybody, it's Glenn. I'm excited to share a free gift with you. Hacker 500 is a resource guide of 500 of the world's best information security tools. So check it out. It's a free download on hackersonfire.com. We'll see you there.
Thank you so much for checking out Hackers on Fire with your host, Glenn Roberts. We'll see you next time.